We're going to cover a few topics here in this video. I know some of you just want certain topics talked about, but we're going to talk about a couple here. As you can see, I'm back home for tonight. I had to come out. I've had 2 deers and I got to get them cut up and get them processed out into what we're going to do with them, because we process our own deer meat here. Going to discuss right now the pneumonia that's going around. You know, it's winter time, pneumonia goes around. That's nothing new, but the way the healthcare is dealing with it is very strange right now. If you read my community post a little while ago, our newborn grandson, he's a little over 2 months old, went to the hospital yesterday, and I got a call that he was at the hospital, that he's having trouble breathing. Well, it turned out they diagnosed him with RSV and pneumonia. Now, what did our hospital do for him? They gave him a steroid shot and a breathing treatment and sent him home. Now, before the pandemic and all that, we all know our healthcare system has never been top notch, especially in my area. In my area, our hospital, if you break a bone and you go to the hospital, as long as it's not sticking out of the skin, now that thing can be broken several places, they're just going to tell you, go see the bone specialist the next day, and then you go see him, and you wind up having to get it rebroke, and then they do surgeries. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all may have hospitals in your area that's like that. Our hospital is essentially a first aid station. Birthing, heart attacks, they might be able to stabilize you and get you somewhere else. Now, grandson has good insurance, and they sent him home, right? Used to, before the pandemic, that would be a infant with pneumonia would be a direct med into a hospital. Now, I don't know if the hospital's full or anything like that. I was told it was best for me not to say nothing, because I get a little ill with the hospitals around here, the way they treat people when I'm in there, with anybody. It's almost like our healthcare system, and I've told a doctor this to his face, it's like our healthcare system has reverted back to the 1800s, where you essentially really got to just deal with it on your own, right? If it's something that you can deal with. Now, a newborn baby being sent home with pneumonia is very strange to me. He had breathing troubles when he was born. He swallowed a lot of the fluid, and for days and days they were having to suction it out, because he kept essentially drowning, after he was born. And of course, it worries me, but my son and his mom called today and text today and said that the baby's doing a little better. He's been sleeping a lot, and they're doing the breathing treatments and everything like they told him to do. My point of it is, though, is our system getting overwhelmed with these pneumonia cases, and how are they going to treat it, right? It's getting to the point of where a lot of y'all know I've had severe back issues. I've had multiple surgeries. My sugar's been out of control. One night, I will tell you that my chest started hurting real bad, probably about July or August, like real bad at night. It started hurting right here, like somebody was just twisting me up right there when I went to bed, and it was feeling like that a couple minutes after I laid down. Well, went to the hospital to get checked out, and my sugar, most of y'all know I don't eat any sugar. Only thing I drink is water, and that's about it, and some milk every now and then. My sugar was 600 that night when they checked it, and they said, well, it's your sugar causing these problems. I said, okay, what are we going to do about it? Well, they gave me an insulin shot, and it dropped it down to about 500, and they sent me home. And of course, immediately I just started, drinking a lot more water, getting up, moving around. I mean, it's to the point that our healthcare system is just ran in the ground. That they're I don't know who they're there for. I really don't. If you're sick, you go to the doctor and try to get help. They just want to send you to another doctor, and everybody wants to get their cut of the pie all the way around, right? And you wind up usually back at the first doctor you started with, honestly. They've been wanting me to have a back surgery for a while now, and this one's going to be a little bit more major. It's going to be a 3-level surgery. It'll be my neck, my T-spine, and my lower back. It's going to put me down for a little while, and I'm worried about it, honestly. Number one, how are they going to treat you after you have the surgery, right? We all know it's a money game, but guys, if you're feeling sick, I don't know what to tell you right now, because if you go to the doctor, they're not going to do very much for you. They're really not. So I don't know how to tell you to deal with it. A newborn baby with pneumonia gets sent home. Just absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand it at all. And we'll get off on another subject here. I know some of you don't like my rambling videos. Some of you don't like any of my videos, but we'll talk a little bit about what's going on over in Israel. Supposedly the ceasefire is over. They said that Hamas did something that went against it, and they're going back at it, right? I still think the end game plan for Israel over there is to get control of the natural gas fields off the coast of Gaza that were found in early 1999 to early 2000. Because you got to remember, all these pipelines have blown up here lately, right? And who needs natural gas? The EU, Europe, right? All them areas over there. We can't furnish them enough to keep them going. It's just not possible. But yet, if Israel can get control of this, then they can furnish it and become a big-time player over there, right? I think that's the end goal over there. And we've discussed this too, how these wars are fought now. They're very strange how they fight the wars. Very strange. They ceasefires. You know, they're not just... Israel, when they started, said they was going to go in and destroy Hamas, and then the USA and all them got involved in it. It's like, no, no, no. You know, you can't do that. Warfare is crazy. You still got the Ukraine and Russia. You notice we're not hearing much about that right now. But we send all that money over there, right? And of course, we keep hearing that China's going to invade Taiwan any day now. I don't understand why China has it. I really don't, because at any minute they could walk right in there and take it pretty much. You know, it'd be a fight, but they could pretty much take it. What's going to happen with all this? Eventually it's going to turn into a huge world war. I don't see no way around it. I really don't. I mean, we're having our bases in the Middle East hit pretty regular now, right? We're not doing much about it. We'll launch a few drone attacks or something like that to the Yemen or places, Syria and places like that, but yet we're not. It's almost like everything's building up. What's it building up to? What's next year? Election year, right? It's hard to unseat a president during wartime. It's just the way it is. It's just the facts. Could all this explode into some huge war before the election? It very possibly could. Very possibly could. That could be the plan. You know, a lot of people think that Donald Trump, you know, he's going to win. He's going to, as soon as he gets in, the next day everything's going to go back to normal. You need to understand that things are not going back to normal. The new normal is chaos, and that's where we're at, and that's where it's going to stay. Prices are not going to come back down to pre-pandemic prices. They're not. Get that out of your head. You know, it's to the point, we've discussed this too. You go to the grocery store, you have to actually pick and choose what you can eat now. I mean, it's not like, well, I need to go pick up a pack of hamburger meat and some pork chops, right? You go down there and you might have to just get the pack of hamburger meat, or you might have to get the pack of pork chops because you can't afford both of them, right? Guys, the price is going up. It's not supply and demand. Get that out of your head. It is corporate greed. It's greed, because if not, prices would have already fallen back down, right? Of course, they claim, well, we're having to pay more for this and that. Yeah, because every company is cashing in on what they can cash in on, right? We've seen it in my area. People back when the housing market was real good in the early 2000s, you know, they would build what's called spec houses. It's where you just go build a house and you float the loan until it sells, right? You might have a partner or something like that in it. You might build a house for $50,000 and put the house up for sale for $180,000, $200,000, and when it sells, you're out of it and you make a profit, right? It comes down to greed. A lot of our builders in our area got caught during that, and you know what happened in 2008. You know, they couldn't sell the houses, and then they was just having to every month pay that interest payment, right? Property keeps going up in my area. The area I live in, the small town, right? When we were in town today, it looked honestly like a big city. There was traffic everywhere, and I don't know where all these people are coming from. I don't, because you think, well, it's around lunchtime, maybe people are going to eat lunch, right, that work in the area, but then you can stop and think, well, every place around here only gives you 30 minutes for lunch, and that's not enough time to go get something to eat, right? I don't know where all these people are coming from. I really don't. There are so many people in our area right now that it's unbelievable. If you pass a Walmart in the middle of the day, any day of the week, the parking lot is completely full. Number one, where are they getting this money to shop? Number two, where are they coming from, right? Our property prices around here are absolutely ridiculous, and the reason ours are going up is people from like Birmingham area, Atlanta area, Huntsville, you know, bigger cities. Let's say grandma and grandpa dies off and you've got 100 acres, right? when they left it to you. Well, what the people around here is doing is they'll subdivide it up because they know they can get $10,000 an acre, right? And that's what's happening. And these people out there are willing to pay it, where people in my area are like, no, it's not worth that. But then it raises your property value up, right? You're like, well, it's a little bit better. It's right. Nope, because guess what? Your tax is going to go up on your property. In Georgia, where my mom and dad live, we built them a house in 2008 or 9, I believe. I'm not exactly sure. We built that house. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, large kitchen, large living room, a 60-foot deck on the back, and just a standard covered front porch. We built that house for around $50,000. And right after we built it, the insurance people come out and they appraised it for $136,000. And that's where it sat for a while. It sat at that appraisal. Well, then during the pandemic, somehow that property value raised to $280,000. But guess what happened? Their taxes is astronomical over there. I mean, it's almost worth not even, shouldn't build a house type situation, right? Because the taxes. What's it like in your area on property? Is property getting ridiculously high because out-of-towners are just paying it? A lot of our property out here, people buy it and they never do nothing with it. They just sit on it. Right behind where I hunt, there's 200 acres and they want $1 million for it. All it is woods, and it's not prime logging, none of that. I mean, it's not like you could sell off some of your property and make your money back. You can sell off your timber and make your money back. My grandpa, he bought his property back in, when he come back out of World War II, sometime in the 1950s, he bought it, and he told me he was able to sell so much timber off of it that it paid him back for what building his house and what he paid for the property. But you also got to understand, my grandpa was a sawmiller his whole life, logging and sawmilling. So that's another thing. You know, a lot of people see these prices on stuff. It's almost like the consumer don't shop for like lumber and stuff. They don't realize the prices come back down on lumber, but yet they'll still buy stuff, like get a builder to come in and charge them 3 to 4 times what the material actually costs because they're not checking prices. If you're having to pay somebody to build you something, please check your prices on your material prices. Don't go by the list they give you. Don't go by that. Go down there and look at your own, whatever they're using, go look at it and figure it out yourself, because I guarantee you, some of you's getting ripped on that one. You know, deer hunting, it went good. We were able to get 2 deers. We got a deer Thanksgiving evening. Thanksgiving morning, had a deer come out, and it was one of them mornings where at the tent camp and everything was wet, right? Now, the muzzle loader, it doesn't get wet. It stays in a case and things like that. But I was concerned with it because when I got in the hunting blind, it's one of them just wet mornings. You know, everything's just wet. It's not raining, it's just wet. You know, I had water dripping in the blind off the fabric of the blind. Now, the muzzleloader, the end stays taped, and I hunt with an open bolt muzzleloader, which means the bolt stays open, the primer is exposed. You pull the trigger, and it slam fires into the primer and ignites it, right? Well, that deer come out, and it was scared. I don't know why. It couldn't smell me. The wind was blowing every way, away from it towards me. But that morning, everybody was shooting around me, you know, boom, boom, boom. All morning, people were popping rounds off at deer, and I thought, well, maybe that deer's just scared of that. It kept staring at where I sat in my blind, and it went up through there. I started to video it because the way it was acting, it was probably got a lot of views, but it went down there and got into my shooting lane, and I pulled the trigger, and the primer went pop when it hit it. And I thought, oh, no. Now, I may have moved that split. It felt like a full second or two before the round actually went off, but I'm sure it wasn't. I may have moved a little bit, and I shot over the deer. Went back that evening, or actually went to Thanksgiving dinner, took my muzzle loader with me over to my mom and dad's, set up the target, shot, and it's hitting exactly where I want it to hit, right? I'm like, all right, it's the hang fire, misfire, whatever you want to call it, is what caused this. I may have moved. Went back in that evening, shot a deer not long before dark, and when I found that deer, the muzzleloader bullet hadn't expanded. It was the same entrance hole as the exit hole, right? I'm like, okay, this ain't good. This thing should be mushrooming out when it hits it. But we was able to find the deer. It was a double lung shot. It's right through the boiler room. It didn't run that far, but we brought Omega in and he tracked it and found it. Omega's my German Shepherd Belgian Malinois mix. He found it. Then I think Tuesday evening I was hunting again, and about 45 minutes before dark, had a buck come in, shot it, went and found it, or shot it and it fell. It was a double shoulder shot, and I was able to recover the bullet out of it, and that bullet hadn't expanded going through 2 shoulders. So I don't know what's going on with it. If you hunt with a muzzleloader, I'm using 250 grain shockwaves. I didn't get no expansion on it. Actually, it just pushed the cone down in it a little bit and curled a little bit of the end over. 150 grains powder. I'm not sure what's happening. We're switching over to Hornady XTPs, hollow points. We're going to see how those do if we get another chance at another deer. But I had the 2 deers. I had that one in the freezer, not freezer, but the refrigerator since Thanksgiving. I had to come home and get it cut up and get it processed. We do all that ourselves. I went ahead and processed the other deer. And this weekend, it's supposed to rain. It's rained. Today's Friday. It's supposed to rain Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and slack off sometimes Monday. I'm not real concerned with it with the muzzleloader and the rain, but I just really don't want to, take a chance of wounding a deer and not finding it. Now, her oldest son, he'll go hunting this weekend with me. I probably won't be hunting, but he will. I'm hoping we're able to get him a deer. He's 13. It's the age where, a lot of people get their first deer. He hunted with me last weekend, but we didn't see nothing over the weekend at all. But he actually sat there during if you watch some of my shorts, the neighbors just sound like they're having World War III around me about the last. If they see me go into my blind, they'll start shooting about the time I get into my blind, which I'll pass their house, and by the time I get to my blind, it's been about 30 minutes since I passed their house, and then they'll start shooting. And it'll go on every 10, 15 minutes, right? It's not a big deal to me as far as, we shoot during deer season, but we try to shoot between 11 and 1, in the middle of the day where we're not really affecting anybody. I don't have an issue with people shooting. But when they start shooting simply because they know you're in there, that's an issue right there. It's a huge issue with me. If you watch one of my shorts, it sounds like they're just mag dumping, right? Just pow, 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 just over and over and over like mag dumping. And the funny thing about it, Tuesday they were doing that, and I was filming another short because they kept doing it, and then that deer come up, and I was like, you messed up now because the deer come from where they were. And I was able to get it. But it's been a rough year hunting as far as the weather. We've been really warm here, really warm. The weatherman said, well, the average is 60 degrees. No, it's not. It's not. Usually here we're in the 50s during this time of year. We're going to be up in the 60s again this weekend, which will slow it down. But the good thing is the rut, right where I hunt, the rut, they're chasing right now, and the rut usually starts sometimes between December 5th and the 12th. Sometime during that week right there, the full-blown rut will kick in. So I'm hoping we can get her kids on a deer and get them to get one this year. As far as me, I'm going to hunt as much as I can, but this weekend we're just backing off. I'm going to let the kids hunt because, they're in the chasing phase. And if you deer hunt during chasing phase, you might see a deer that you've never seen before come through the property trailing does, right? It's been a hectic week, guys. Hectic. The grandbaby's sick, but they're saying that he's sleeping, he's breathing. It's worrisome when a 2-month-old, you get told they have pneumonia. And the reason I get worried about it, my grandmother, I always get the dates wrong. It was before World War I. You got to understand, she grew up dirt poor, a bunch of brothers and sisters. She got married, and it was either 1940 or 1941. Her husband got pneumonia, and her newborn baby got pneumonia. And the husband died, and a couple days later the baby died, and the ground was frozen, and they couldn't get them buried in the ground. So my granny always told me they just put the baby in with her husband in a separate bedroom and kept them in there because it was so cold they couldn't, get the ground dug and froze. Or the ground was frozen, they couldn't dig the graves. I always think about that when I go to the graveyard. Could you imagine that back in them days? You're sitting there and your husband's over here, passed away, and then your baby dies, and you're having to sit there with them 2 or 3 days. You can't get them in the ground and things like that. It's very strange. It also reminds me of the night my grandfather died. We had ate supper down there. It's one thing I always try to do was eat supper with him. I went home and went to bed, and my granny called me about 8 or 9 o'clock at night and said, something's wrong with your grandpa. Can you come down here and see what's wrong with him? I said, she said he's sitting in the chair. I said, yeah, I'll be down there in a minute. I threw on some clothes, and by that time, I guess she'd called my mom first, and my mom was already there. So I get down there, and my grandpa's sitting in the chair. He didn't look right. He was pouring sweat, and he was gurgling. And he had what I call a death grip on his chair. He had a recliner, and he had it hold to the side really tight. I couldn't get his hands off the side of it. He wouldn't wake up. He wouldn't speak to me. And my grandmother was sitting there the whole time in her rocking chair just rocking. Well, we finally got the ambulance there, and they took him out, and they started shocking him and everything. And, you know, a lot of people say it's not true, but they were hitting them with those shock paddles, and it was honestly picking them up off the gurney when they were doing it. And I was like, you know, that's enough. He wouldn't want this. Well, I went back in the house as they would transport them. Of course, they tore out of there pretty quick. And my grandmother was still just sitting there rocking in her chair. And she said, he's dead, ain't he? I said, I'm pretty sure he's dead, Granny. She's like, okay, well, what we need to get a hold of funeral. I mean, just like it was, you know, just we need to get a hold of funeral home. We need to do this. We need to do that. Well, I go down to the hospital and go in there, and they come out and they asked me. They said, do you care to go in there and get his personal belongings and things like that? And I was like, no, I don't care. Now my mom was with me. I go in there and I get his personal belongings and I hand them to my mom. Of course, it took about 2 or 3 hours for the funeral home to come get them from the hospital, which is in the same town as the funeral home. Well, we go to the funeral, and my granny's sitting there in a chair by the casket, and I come in, and she's not happy. Anybody knew my grandma, she would tell you. I mean, she didn't hold back what she was thinking. She said, I can't see him. I said, what do you mean? She said, I can't see him sitting in my chair. So she grabbed the funeral director, which in this town, everybody knows everybody. It's a small town. And she asked him, said, I can't see him. Is there something we can do where you can set him up in the casket? Funeral director said, we'll figure something out. And he cleared the room out, and he asked me to stay. Well, I didn't know what they needed me for, right? I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. They just want to raise up. You know, I figured they'd have a pillow or something to put under them. And the funeral director went out and come back in, and he had 3 rolls of paper towels. He said, do you care to pick your grandfather up so we can set these under him? And I was like, no, you know, it don't bother me to pick them up. Well, I picked them up, and they put the 2 rolls side by side like this and one on top, and it raised them up in his casket, and my grandmother was satisfied with that. To this day, I don't know if they got the paper towels back out or not. But them old timers were cut from a different breed or something. I mean, they grew up when people died, they sat in the house with them, you know, or they had the funeral in the house, things like that, you know. Guys, the world is not getting any better. If you're lucky enough to have a grandparent that's still alive, that's over 80 years old, go talk to them and learn from them. Ask them what things were like when they were young growing up. Ask them. Because I'm telling you, we're headed back to that way. Our healthcare system is already like the 1800s again. You're better off, honestly, this is not medical advice, but you're better off trying to treat yourself. You know, if you don't have insurance, whew, I don't know what to tell you. Y'all have seen my videos about it. If you haven't seen it, go back and look at my videos about going to the doctor with my back with no insurance, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But this pneumonia going around, don't believe it's not real. I know a lot of people still think the pandemic was fake, that stuff wasn't real. You know, I personally caught it. I know a lot of people that caught it, you know, and it was real. You know, was it as bad as they were saying it was? I don't know, because I know people that died. A lot of people are going to say, well, they didn't die from it, they died with it. And my response always is, and I don't mean to offend you if this offends you, I'm diabetic. If I die of a heart attack, nobody gets mad if they say he died from complications of diabetes, even though the heart attack took me out, right? And that's the way I look at it. This pneumonia that's going around, I don't know how they're treating it. Obviously, they're just giving you steroids and breathing treatments. It kind of, to me, sounds like, I've had pneumonia before, what they call walking pneumonia. Some of y'all may have had walking pneumonia. it's rough, but you can still get around, and at night it gets real bad. It kind of sounds like walking pneumonia to me from some of the people I'm hearing that's had it and how they're able to do it, that they get real bad fevers and stuff at night. But guys, take your vitamin C's, take your vitamins, drink your orange juice, try to stay active, try to avoid getting this, I don't know how to tell you to avoid to get it. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a magic ball to tell you how not to get it. But guys, keep a check if you've got little kids. If they're getting sick, keep a check on them. Start really paying attention to it, because pneumonia, it kills a lot of people. But I don't know how they're going to fix this one. I don't know. I don't think they're going to lock us down. Of course, a lot of channels on here screaming the new lockdowns are coming. I'm pretty sure they learned last time that the lockdowns are not going to work. And in my area, the only people who were considered non-essential were preachers and school teachers. Everybody else worked. Everybody else worked. And I never actually seen anybody that was locked down where they couldn't leave their house. During the whole pandemic, I don't know anywhere that it was like that. Now, it could have been somewhere that I don't know about, but I'm pretty sure everybody could come and go from their house. They just might not have been working wherever they worked, right? So I don't know. I don't think we're going to get locked back down.